Wow, that music is loud. Just kind of came in hot. Remember I told you I'm gonna have to adjust the volumes? I
Yeah,
definitely have to
that's
adjust the
right.
volumes. You know, don't worry about re-recording it. This is fine as is. It'll just jump scare poor Norway. So what's up, Jake? How you doing today?
I'm alright. How are you?
I'm doing all right. You know, it's funny. We had such a hard time trying to find the opportunity for us to record. We almost actually did this thing live. It was yeah. Well, luckily we finally found the time, and so we can actually get into the character. Are you excited about
hmm
your session zero?
Yeah, definitely. I'm excited to see what you're gonna do with it.
What am I gonna do, to the poor lad?
Yeah, because I didn't actually see the other two, so yeah.
No. Wait, you didn't actually watch them? I mean, I know we were hanging out during the airing, but I suppose what you saying I talk too much?
Yeah, that's probably that's, putting it softly, I guess.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Well, softly, it's something you know a lot about putting it. So the
Yeah. I got
uh,
to start soft, otherwise, just I can't take it.
poor Neil, he's such a soft boy. Um, Hold on. Excuse me. All right, so uh, what the hell was I about to say to you? I was going to say something. I don't remember what it was. I don't think it was anything important though. So your character, Vigo. I know we were excited to tell the story. There's a little bit of bringing to light little bits of new and different detail for this part of Paradel, because some parts of Paradel, hell, it's just like when we were playing in the Kingmaker campaign. It didn't exactly feel like the fallen Mall Empire, did it? It didn't exactly have this feel like the place was covered in predominantly hobgoblins, just because none of the PCs were hobgoblins. It felt like all the primary NPCs that were made by Patreon weren't hobgoblins, and certainly a lot of the side characters that I portrayed myself for reasons XYZ, they weren't hobgoblin either. And so it almost felt like it was just like a typical fantasy human world. And oh, there's hobgoblins here too. It's like, oh,
Yeah. I mean, one of the PCs played a hobgoblin at one point.
I
Just
mean, well,
saying.
yeah, yes. Teacher's pet did bring an apple. You are correct. That is true. Um,
That was good.
but
What's more, with feeling.
overall, the that idea that Adir is a hobgoblin nation, or at least formerly was, kind of got lost in translation. Just like the idea that it's a campaign setting of which were called polytheistic people, as opposed to like intensely monotheistic people, just because of like the characters played and the stories told. It kind of gets lost in translation a bit, which is funny. So this is another thing, your character concept, where we can kind of see a little bit more of that. The whole concept of Inclame is to show like the other side of the coin, and how Paradel works, but then your character also offers a little bit more. So, being somebody who is the child of one of the Churumbar, one of the rulers to be, and no, I'm just kidding. It's totally not happening.
I was just gonna let you go on then.
Yeah, for a second, you looked at me like, wait, what? No, that's not okay. No, he's just messing
We
around.
didn't discuss this beforehand.
All right. So let's I suppose we should just kind of dive into it. Any last things you want to say before you get into the mind of Vigo? Do you want to tell everybody what your character's name almost was?
Pete.
No.
I want to call him Pete, but Scott said I wasn't allowed. Said there was no Pete's in this campaign.
Well, that's not exactly what happened.
That's
Um,
exactly what happened. He said, "You cannot name anyone in this campaign Pete. I have something against Pete's, and I don't want anyone named Pete in any of my campaigns." It was his exact words.
well, to be fair, when I was a child, there was this trash television show that is called Pete and Pete. It was an absolute garbage show. First of all, the two characters were gingers, so definitely not going to be good actors. But no, it was called Pete and Pete, and it was a trash show. So I may have some
Double
small.
the Pete.
Yeah, well, it was brothers, I think they were, or something like that. It was a trash show, but the I had nothing wrong with you naming your character Pete. I just sniggered at it, like, you know, it was just funny.
Well,
what
I
was
was like trying to go with that real orc name because I only play orcs, and just typecast as an orc. So didn't want to let anyone down. So I definitely, am I full-blooded orc? Am I half? I mean, am I a quark? Who knows? We'll see soon. But his name is almost Pete, and yeah,
you were pushed away from Pete?
yeah,
No, if you named your character,
unkindly.
if you named your character Pete, you realize like he'd have to have a dragon, like he'd have to,
Yeah.
because then it doesn't matter.
That's
the dragon.
probably why you didn't let me.
Right.
Call
Yeah.
Pete.
Well, because like I wouldn't like, because it would be one of two things. If his name was Pete, either he would have to have a dragon, and we'd ignore the dragon's name, and we just call it, Pete's dragon, or we would have to refer to your loins, and then there's gonna be a lot of jokes about, like
So
how
you're
it
really just
flies
looking out
and-
for me.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
I get
Like,
you.
well, yeah, be like, well, Pete's dragon. Let's just say he's not much of a wormling, like, it's, it's, yeah. Oh man, Pete the Quark. That's Anyways, that'd be an interesting name had you gone with or Pete the half orc. I don't know. I'm glad you didn't. I'm glad you didn't go with the name Pete. It's a terrible name. Terrible name. You ready to go?
Well, I'm ready.
Cool. By the way, I see that you're wearing a devil shirt. Does that mean you worship Satan?
Oh, I get what you mean. No, we're not associated with that, remember? There's lawsuits that went out just a little too late.
Oh, okay. So you did not buy one of the 665 pairs of shoes.
No, I did not. I categorically deny any affiliation with the Devil Blood shoes.
See, and here I thought you were the one that offered the blood.
Well, that's what orcs do.
Especially Quarks.
Yeah.
Named
Name
Pete.
Pete.
Oh, Jesus. All right. So, Jake, there is, I am a terrible DM and totally forgot one of the most important details of your character. I don't remember. Oh, wait, no. I think you grew up in Oslo, didn't you?
The capital, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Never mind. I'm not a terrible DM. I'm only terrible for a moment, but then I recovered myself.
Yeah.
Okay. So, your character, the campaign starts off kind of a very special day for your character, for poor Viggo. Poor Viggo, like things are difficult for him. The campaign starts off on a very special day for Viggo. Viggo had spent the early part of his life, his early childhood, growing up in Oslo. I said Oslo, like I was Norway or something like that. Growing up in Oslo, the capital city of all of Paradel. Important to note that while Oslo does sit between Bard and Parentia and receives many of the benefits of being in a location like that, and certainly along a river, and we know the significance of that, don't we? While it sits in this location and receives many of the benefits of that, Oslo is not governed by any of the princes or by any of the provinces. As a matter of fact, the rulers of Oslo, of that individual city-state, are separate of all of the princes and serve no prince. It's the only city-state that stands outside of all of the other princes, which makes it kind of unique. It has its own laws, so on and so forth. It's also the home to all three of the Turumbar, though never will you have more than one Turumbar there at one point in time. And it's just kind of like a very, very grand place. If you have to imagine the nation of Paradel, being a warlike nation, it has ridiculous amounts of commerce. I mean, its borders are always expanding, so there's new people to always trade with. Its commerce is always growing as it takes land from other nations. It can utilize the resources that nation had prior, usually with a lot of the systems or structures already in place to take advantage of it. Like, for instance, when Paradel took Vala, the region to the north, they were like, oh, look at these mines already dug out with like tracks already laid in there and pickaxes and workers that already know how to mine. Hey, workers, guess what? You all now have to do inclame or die. Do you want to pick up a sword and fight for us? Or do you want to continue mining for us? Huh? Totally fine. So, needless to say, the nation has a ridiculous amount of income, and a lot of it passes through Osto. Osto is effectively the London, if you will, a rather grand city with a lot of different architecture kind of spanning over the. I mean, if you think about the origins of Paradel, Paradel itself is centuries old, right? The fall of Adir happened about 700 years old. We know this in the meta because of your previous campaign, JAEK, but the rise of Paradel kind of happens sometime after that. Either way, being as close to Adir as it is, this is one of the earlier city-states. So this city is at least 500 years old. It's been able to change its architecture and its culture and so on and so forth so many times over that period of time. And it certainly has its effect on the way the place looks. There's not a city in the United States that's that old that wasn't, taken from Mexico. So it just doesn't exist here. So we don't even have that as an example. Anyways, so you actually, I don't think you have any cities in all of Australia that are 500 years old either.
No.
Yeah,
No.
unless of course they were taking from the indigenous. So yeah, so it's again lots of culture, but pushing past that. Your character, however, while spending his early childhood and having been born into Osto, actually didn't spend most of his upbringing there. From an early age of, what did you say, was it about 6?
Yep.
Due to circumstances X, Y, and Z, a decision was made for you that you were going to get a very vast, very deep education, an erudite, if you will, a moderate understanding of many things, while still a deep knowledge of certain few things that you happen to find interest in. You pursued individually as far as you could to expand that knowledge. Because of that, you did not spend your time again in Osto. You went to 2 of the other provinces. Being born a Manel, you have free reign in any one of the provinces. You are a citizen to all of Paradel, not one province. So you went to Bard, where you were able to get some deep learning of the basics of arcane arts and how they affect the world, the history of the Arcane Congress, the history of magical and medicinal practices, etc., etc., etc. I don't remember if Bard was first or latter for you, probably later, but more Sahora. That is where you spend the most of your time with your education. A lot of people that are watching this when they watch it, whether when we broadcast it on Twitch or when we put it up on YouTube or whatever, they haven't really heard much or read much about Sahora. But Sahora has the oldest of all the princes serving there. They have been, I think it's like 120 years or something like that. So they are a very, very old prince. And if there's one thing that they put before anything else, it's education. They feel as though if you do not properly educate the people of Paradel, they will never be able to grow beyond what they were into becoming something greater, something new. And that's more important for the new people to Paradel than it is of the people that have already been in Paradel. But certainly by having those structures in place for the people that were born there or raised there, that means that they can rise above even the previous stations that they've had. So you spend a lot of your time learning your basic arithmetics and engineering and so on and so forth down in Sahora. Luckily for you, while education is pretty open in places like that, you didn't have to seek out what they offered publicly. you had a bit of coin in your pocket and were able to utilize that to expand your education far above and beyond others. This is something that's represented in many ways throughout your character. When we're picking up this session, I actually have to ask the question because I didn't ask you this beforehand. Would we be picking up this special day for you in one of the colleges of Sahora, one of the universities of Bard, or back home in Osto for the celebration that you have?
I think we'd pick up when he got back home.
So he's already graduated at this point from the various colleges and universities that he's been able to attend, but it's the return home, because again, you've already graduated and now you have to plan what it is you're going to do with the rest of your life, because things are going to be a little bit different soon. When you returned home, you likely would have traveled to make sure that you had a bit of time to enjoy home. However, were you able to get there in time to properly enjoy it? Ever the person that appreciates chaos as much as I try to avoid it in my own personal life, I live it every day. Could you go ahead and roll me a D100, please, Jake? I'd ask you to ask somebody in chat, but there is no chat right now.
Of course. $55.
That's a down the middle.
Hmm.
You know, that's so down the middle. I'm going to allow
one.
for a tiebreaker. Do you want to roll me a D100 or a D20?
We'll go with the D20.
I'm just kidding. Joe, you want to roll that D20 for me? he totally believes that we're live too. I bet he does.
Yeah.
Go ahead, roll me that D20, please, Jake.
Sweet. Thank you. Just wondering what you were doing then.
Oh, okay. So your travel home, unfortunately, had a little bit of a mishap. You pay a good amount of money to make sure that you have the opportunity to get home in time to see your family. You paid a good amount of money for this. You paid a good, reputed shipping company to sit atop one of their wagons. They have a set schedule. You want to make sure that things are going to be running securely, nice and smooth for you. Unfortunately, that doesn't help with inclement weather. As you know, Bard can have a nice, long, rainy season. And the amount of rain that just happened to be coming down this spring, happened to be coming down because, springtime, happened to be coming down this spring, was it's torrential downpour, buckets upon buckets. The roads themselves are all misshapen. Obviously it's the responsibility of certain persons to actually walk along the many roads and highways that exist inside Paradel and maintain their upkeep of flattening them out and adding bits of stone here and there to secure it so it doesn't so easily wash away. But just the sheer quantity of rain, the volume happened to disrupt the road. The wagon wheel broke not only once but twice, and the second time having broken the axle of the wagon that you were on. Offering to buy one of the steeds, they of course had to deny you because sure, you've got coin to spend, but it's not like you have an endless supply of money, and they need the horses for when they're actually able to get the wagon up and running again. Things just went awry when you hopped on with a different wagon group that just like, I need to get out of here. Of course, the second wagon that you jumped onto that happened to be rotting by, offering whatever aid they could, but certainly speed for you. They weren't anywhere near as grand or as large of a company. So when they got beset by bandits inside of Bard, because people don't like to talk about it, but it's not like Paradel lacks its own problems. There are, of course, regions where there is banditry that happens. Certainly not along the rivers, of course. But there is a degree of banditry that happens there. Needless to say, you lost your sack of coin, nearly your life, and then still got late back home to Osto. When finally you get home, it's literally the night before your big day, and it's upsetting. You literally go home, you walk down the cobbled streets to where your home is, and you stand before it. I want you to go ahead and describe this home to me. Feel free, of course, to take all creative liberties with describing it, but make sure you take in its grandness.
Sure, it's a multi-story home with a large, New American say, porch. With
What would you call it?
a deck.
Well, deck is usually out back, and a porch is usually out front. Yeah, like
Maybe
you
I'm
say,
wrong.
you say,
Maybe everyone calls it porch, and I'm just wrong.
I'm having a Barbie on the back deck.
No.
You know.
Yeah. So it's the house is made out of a lot of marble, as well as some really fine quality wood, accenting the features of the house. Leading up to it, there are it has quite a large front garden, in which a once again marble path winds its way through, coming up to some stone marble pillars.
Beautiful. The wood itself, is that going to be from the forests to the north, or is it going to be from like parallel forests?
Probably from. We got money, so it's expensive wood from somewhere nice.
Yeah, I probably would have been imported down from what the hell is it called? My name's so bad. From Eldamar. I forget the name of Eldamar more than any other nation in my continent. Like, so bad. Anyways, so yeah, the it would have been wood kind of transported down to here from Eldamar, which is a long way to travel. There is no direct route from Eldamar to Osto. Even if you're just trying to check out the map for the easiest way to get it there, like you're talking, the easiest route would be to have it go from Eldamar across the land over to which river is that? The one that goes 1, 2, 3. It's either the third or fourth river in Paradel. So one of the two rivers that go through Dween, of course. And then after it goes there, they have to go into the ocean, go around along the shore in the ocean, and then finally go onto a river barge and then brought up to Osto. Like, that is some serious traveling for that quality of wood, right? So definitely, like you said, got a bit of money to be able to even get your hands on wood of that expense, and then to transport it all the way here. That's crazy. And this probably all would have happened during a time when Leyden A was just all of Leyden, before it expanded all the way over to Leyden O and Delagus and stuff like that, right? Anyways, so you're walking up and you have this marble pathway through this wonderful garden. It's springtime, so you probably have a good number of flowers in bloom. Is there a specific flower or something like that? And this is just a general question. It's not important. That you imagine kind of like as an early like an early flowering flower that you can see inside the garden, kind of like a color or something like that, that brings back a fondness or memory for you?
Well, we've always had a lot of sunflowers, so that would remind him of home.
Okay, a good number of sunflowers. Gotcha. Yeah, it's one of those fun things. Like, side note, Brittany and I recently, there's this I didn't even know what it was. We were at the place, and they had a bunch of the bushes for sale. Like, if you go early spring, you can get some like really good sized bushes and trees for the same price as 2 weeks later on. You get them like 1/10 the size, and they're in like great condition. So we went like super early, and they only imported 3 dozen of them, and we bought 2 of these little bushes, and it looks like a million vines coming up, and I don't know what the hell it was. Anyways, we planted it into the ground, and lo and behold, after like 2 or 3 weeks of it being there, it starts flowering this like bright yellow flower. I can like send a picture and send it to you on Discord or whatever later, but this bright yellow flower, and I realized, lo and behold, there's like already 2 of them that exist on the property. I never noticed it before. So for the past couple of weeks, every time I drive around, Rory and I, all we can see is this yellow flower, because it flowers like tulips. It flowers so much earlier than everything else around. Like, while the trees are still just budding, these are in full bloom, full flowers, and they stay that way until about October or so. which is our fall, as you know. So it's just one of those things where it's just like so iconic, and I didn't realize almost every house in the neighborhood has it. You drive along the highway, it's all along the highway. You see it I never noticed it before. It's like if you buy like an ugly car, like a lime green car, then you notice everybody else's or like a powder blue car. Like if your name is Rosin Win, all of a sudden you realize how many people around you have equally ugly cars. You know what I mean? But like you have to be Rosin Win to really notice how many other people have terrible taste in motor vehicles. So either way. You know that Steve drives around looking for powder blue cars. Go ahead. Nah, that ain't her. Nah, that ain't her. Ron! Oh, nope. Sorry. Thought you were a lady. Anyways, so back to the game. Don't want to continue with tangents from hell. So you were so beautiful, like you had said. It was a sunflower. I actually honestly don't know. Sorry, as a side tangent again. When do sunflowers bloom? I genuinely don't know this. Like to me, sunflowers are iconic in the summertime and the fall, but I honestly don't know when they like awaken.
Neither do I. I know we have some in the garden now that are in bloom, but I don't know when they started, and it's autumn here at the moment. So
yeah, I mean they might bloom in the spring as well. It doesn't matter. Either way, I was just curious. Sometimes plants bloom a little bit earlier or later, anyways, upwards of a month around, depending on that year's season, like how the season plays out. So. Either way, back to the game. You go walking through this garden, as you said beforehand. There is a blooming flowers that are there that absolutely just kind of like catch your eye and remind you of fond memories from your early childhood. Certainly something that you probably like stop and just kind of like literally smell the flowers. Not the roses, because if you lean a little too close, roses really smell like poo-poo. So you stop and you smell the flowers for a moment and just kind of like taking the garden, taking the whole scene. I mean, how many years has it been since you have been here last between your studies?
Many years.
Not even putting a number to it. It's just it's probably too emotional to spend too much time thinking about. Is that whole thing as you walking up the stairs, remembering yourself being even taller than the last time you were here, kind of like fingers running along the railing? The railing itself always in mint condition, always perfectly maintained. Walking up to the door having never changed, feeling again like just kind of like seeing the way that it's set there, that really hard oak that it's carved out of, that door knocker that's just so iconic. Easily staring at the door knocker at eye level as opposed to always looking up to it like you did. It's just I know it sounds weird, but just seeing it from this different angle, it just inspires different emotions and stuff like that. Hold on one second. Yes, Aurora? Hi, what's up? Is Mommy awake? Okay, you should definitely go and see Mommy. Give me a hug, okay? I love you. Okay, you should go and see Mommy though, okay? I love you, sweetheart. Jasper slept in the bed all night. Jasper put himself right between me and Mommy. The whole time. I couldn't get rid of him. Yeah, I know. I wanted to toot on him. We're dog sitting for my in-laws, and they have one of those. It's like this big. I don't know. It's like a foot. Like you want to punt kick it. It's about the size of a rugby ball, right?
Right.
Yeah, and they don't train their dog not to, like, my dog does not beg. Like if you're eating dinner, I mean, Josh can actually attest to this. If ever you talk to Josh again, my dog doesn't beg. If I notice that she's around the table while we're eating, I say go lie down, and she goes over to the other room and lies on the couch, and she doesn't beg at all. That she knows not to. If you're eating food at the couch, she does not sit there and be like, what's that? She'll just kind of like tuck her head behind you because she knows we don't feed her from our hands. We don't do anything like that. This dog, however, is a goddamn shadow. It's always under your foot. I've stepped on him twice. You know what I mean? And he follows Brittany everywhere. And I mean everywhere. She cannot take a step without him being like, don't leave me. It's so frustrating. We try to put him inside of Roar's bedroom with Bratwurst, because that's where Brody sleeps at night now. And he just jumps at the door. Jump. So you hear for like an hour. He doesn't give up. So finally, like, fine, let him out of the door. Comes over. I hate the dog. Back to the game.
Is he an inside dog at your in-laws as well?
Yeah, but he's so small and pathetic that you can let him out off the leash and he doesn't run away or anything like that, because if he hears a squirrel chirp, it'll scare him. So he's like half the size of your pom-pom. You know what I mean? Like it's and then mind you, Brittany's sister has a dog half the size of that. It's like it's terrible. But
Didn't know there were dogs that sized.
I mean, the other one, Susie, is I think it's a min pin or like a toy min pin or something. I don't know. It's like 5 pounds. Like literally, I've eaten food bigger than it. Like, I mean,
well,
yeah, it's sad, but either way, like it's like a Corning chicken or whatever they call them. You know what I'm talking about? Like the Cornish,
yeah,
Cornish hen,
yeah.
Cornish hen. Yeah, I'm like, oh. That's like a child's soccer ball. All right. Anyways,
nice.
back to the game. You go walking up to the door, and again, just seeing the door knocker from like the different angle, it just again it elicits a degree of emotion because you've never seen it from this angle before. And it's not like you have to knock on the door by any stretch. You have your key. You have it with you at all points in time, right? So you take the key, it's the old, brass key that you have, and you remove it from your pocket, kind of running your finger along the side of it, insert it into the lock, a loud click, and then you go pushing the door open. Being the old oak door, you can imagine this is heavy. The hinges are well maintained, and it's triple hinged. Well maintained, but it's still a bit of a heavy door. So you go to give a push to it, but despite the fact that it's well maintained, you're surprised by how quickly it swings open. And that's because when it opens up, there's somebody standing on the other side. Pete. No, I'm just kidding. Your brother's on the other side of the door. Must have heard you walking up or seen you walking up. Again, it's late. You have no idea what hour it is, but it's well after the time a proper person goes to bed, right? Must have been waiting up and must have noticed you coming up to the steps. And as soon as you unlocked the door and started pushing it, they grabbed the handle and they pulled it open for you. And they stand before you. And, I mean, it's been a considerable amount of time since you've seen your brother. Now, granted, more recently than you've been home, because he's come to visit you anytime he's had the opportunity to across the various colleges and universities. Anytime he's either been stationed in the area or has had a bit of leave, he has always gone out of his way to spend time with you. Has always gone out of his way to spend, if he can, upwards a week with you. Usually just like a day or two before going off. And every time he's visited you, he's always given you, like, if you're studying for important exams, either offered any degree of aid that he could for the studying, or giving you your piece and just taking you out to the sporadic lunch or dinner that you could do in the time that you had. Though, again, it's still been upwards a year since you had seen him. And he's standing there. Now, here's the most peculiar part of him standing there. He's not in uniform. I mean, your brother is always in uniform. Whenever you see him, he is out and about. He sees you in Sahora. He sees you in Bard. He is with his company. He is on duty. Even if you guys are just going out to a lunch or something like that, he's presenting himself well as a ranking member in the Paradel military. But home, for the first time in years, he's actually wearing just fine, comfortable clothes. Even beyond that, he's wearing evening clothes. Like, he's prepared to go to bed. It's just very out of the ordinary to see somebody ranked so well, standing there straight backed, and as he opens the door to see you, bit of shock on your face, as you can imagine. There's a bit of a softness to his. What do you say as he opens the door beyond? Who?
As soon as he opens the door, there is that shock, and his jaw kind of slackens a bit, and then he immediately just says, "Victor," and then he hugs him. He says, I haven't seen you like this since I'd play out in the garden and at night, and you'd have to let me back in because I forgot my key. It's been a long time.
He'd chuckle a little bit and say, either that or sneak you in so nobody noticed.
Yeah.
You're late. You're very late.
Trouble on the road. First, the wagon broke down. After the wagon, got on another wagon. Then that wagon wasn't doing too well, and finally we were hit by bandits. But
Bandits.
luckily
Are you injured? He says, and he literally just reaches out and grabs your chin and turns it one way and then the other way.
No, I'm fine. I had some money. They took it and didn't harm me.
Money's not a thing. It's your life that matters, your health. You sure you're not injured?
I'm not injured.
Did you give him the old, did you help chase them off, or were you compliant?
I was compliant. I wanted to get home before tomorrow.
Of course. I was hoping you'd be here a few days ago, but it looks as though tomorrow is the time that we have. So we will spend tomorrow well. Listen, it sounds like it was a rough road. Why don't you find your way to your bed? He says as he shuts the door behind you and says, go find your way to your bed. Go rest. I'll wake you up bright and early. We'll have a full day of it. It'll be a good day.
He stands there, he kind of has a smile on his face, and he puts his hand up. Yes, sir. He turns on a heel and starts marching to the staircase.
He'll chuckle to himself and say, I serve so you don't have to. And you go walking off. I imagine you find your way upstairs. You would bring whatever supplies you still have with you, whatever stuff you still have with you. Luckily, they didn't really... Yeah, granted, your books and whatnot may have been thrown in a puddle of mud and stuff like that, but they didn't actually take your texts and whatnot that you were able to keep with you. And again, you're not in school anymore. You've certainly contemplated going back to one final university, but you don't know how it's going to work out. You still have not fully decided how that's all going to play. So in the meanwhile, you've kept all your things to keep brushed up on your learnings and whatnot. And certainly some of those supplies are things that you have earned yourself. So they're things that very, very much belong to you and you don't have to worry about, right? So you're holding on to those prized possessions. But the question I was going to ask is, after you go upstairs and you put your things down inside your old room, and honestly, it's a beautiful room that you have. Not only is it rather grand, the size of half the dormitory that you shared with the various other students and many of the colleges that you attended when you were young. Off of your room, you actually have your own private study. It's literally another thick oak door that you have that separates your room from your own private study. That own private study has its own, candelabra that's up in the ceiling above. Of course, if you needed to have those candles lit, you could do it yourself, or you can call it to the house, maid to take care of it for you. It's just nice to have all these supplies around you. But would you see yourself kind of lying down immediately or going to take a bath? What would you do?
The first thing he does as he walks in is he just kind of takes it all in. He looks at the bed, how long it's been since he's last slept there. Looks around, everything's tidy. He walks into his study. Looks a bit different without all the parchment and stuff around. But he takes one finger and runs it along the desk. Looks down, he says, no dust. Then he smirks and then turns around, throws his stuff just in the middle of the room. I need a bath. Bath and then bed. It's a big day tomorrow.
So you would go and find your way to the bath chamber, and when you go inside there, again, there's because it's not like they have hot water gets piped in, right? So plumbing and stuff like that is not entirely unusual in Osto because it has a lot of super advanced technological development. It is along a river, so having water that can actually be drawn into here is not unusual. By having hot water, so of course you have to get the fire lit up to be able to do that. But when you go into the room, you notice the fire is already lit. It's low, because it's meant to be it's maintained right now for you, which your brother had taken care of, or at least had the maid take care of before they left for the evening. But the fire is already lit, so you just have to get it kind of like going up and getting the water kind of like thrown inside there and really get it boiling, so you can add that to your bath to have it nice for you, right? So either way, while you have that done, while you're kind of getting that ready, and the water's kind of coming up to the temperature where you would in the next several minutes be going in, you'd actually hear like a knock on the bathroom door, and the door would open immediately afterwards. Your brother would come walking in. Like he'd open up the door and he'd come walking in and be carrying a plate. On the plate, you can see he's prepared like an actual proper sandwich for you. You know what I mean? It looks like it was probably fresh bread that was baked earlier today. Nice thick cuts of meat that would have been put onto it. Cheeses put to the side because, not everybody wants to have their cheese on their sandwich. And even like a twig full of grapes adjacent to it. He'd come walking in and put it over onto one of the tables nearby and say, I figured you might be hungry after the road that you just traveled.
Oh, thank you. The wagon food was absolute trash. I'm so happy to see that you brought that.
You don't know trash food until you've survived off of rations for months on end, and I certainly hope you never have to survive off the rations that you find in the Barren Lands.
Well, I would hope not.
There's like a moment of silence where he like looks off to the side. He looks back and says, well, it's easier to sleep on a full stomach. Again, I'll be up before dawn in the morning, and I'll wake you shortly thereafter. Enjoy your evening. Rest well.
I will. See you tomorrow.
He kind of walks across the room and places a hand on the shoulder and just kind of gives you like it's like one of that like I missed you kind of looks, because it's been a long time and certainly has not seen you home in a long time. And he actually, when he gives you that kind of like missed you looks, there's like a pause, and he says, it's been quiet here. And then give you like a squeeze, and he'll turn and walk out of the room, shutting the door behind him. Sorry.
Before he shuts the door, I'll say, brother. Are you still sleeping in your old room?
He like holds for like 2-3 seconds and says, I had my room moved about 2 years ago. I thought it might be time.
He looks pretty solemn, but he nods and he says, they'd be proud of who you are and what you've done.
There's again a pause. He just nods, like a very shallow nods to himself. Nods, with his back still kind of like not quite to you, he's like somewhat looking away, and then he says, "Good night," and then he shuts the door, and you can hear like the soft footsteps as he walks down the hallway.
Yeah.
There's always a creak outside that bathroom. You never minded it when you were younger. So so you of course are able to kind of like take it a soak and actually like properly bathe. Oh, your favorite scented oils are here. This is amazing. You could properly take it a soak, enjoy the food, relax, and then go to bed for the evening. You want to go ahead and roll me a D100. Again, I mean, I would love to have you ask True Blue to see exactly how gentle and soft your evening's dreams are, but since True Blue won't be here in time, you can go ahead and roll me that D100.
So that D100, no worries.
Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, the dreams are not very. I wonder if Viking actually rolled, and what it. I hope they rolled like somewhere in the 90s, meaning they would have given you good dreams, but unfortunately,
Viking always gives me good dreams. I don't know what you're talking about.
Whoa, hey! He doesn't live in Victoria for nothing. No. So, either way, you with 18, your character does not have very restful dreams. They are, unfortunately, coming home. It's one of those things where you've avoided it many times. I mean, you were young, but despite being young, you remember so vividly many of the details. Would you like to describe how old you were and how it was that the news was told to you?
He was young. Could have been about 4 or 5. Just remembers playing in the garden, and his brother coming and just sitting in the garden amongst the flowers for hours. And while I played and tried to play games with him, he just sat there, stone-faced. And then he took me by the hand and he just said, "They're gone. It's just me and you now."
That scene kind of playing through your mind again, the sunflowers that you saw as you came in, kind of re-eliciting these old memories, as sights and smells often do. Lying in your bed, the number of times you've stared at the ceiling in your youth over and over again. Not as much in those first few months, but certainly the years that passed. The decisions that were made and the paths you've both taken, all of that weighing heavily on you. Needless to say, you don't sleep much. Occasionally, you slip off to sleep, but fortunately, you're able to wake yourself up at some point in time from these depressing dreams, just to have, your character by no means is sobbing at this point. He's much too old and grown past that. But just lying there, feeling the weight on his chest, the occasional wetness rolling down the corner of his eye, down his temple, wetting his hairline. I mean, he is going to. Sorry, what is it? You feel that pressure and everything that's there. You know the relationship that you and your brother have, everything that he did from that young age, how quickly he was to enlist in the military, how he has poured everything into your education and preparing you for the world. But that's a concern for not today. Not today, you tell yourself as you hear your brother silently walking down the hallway. Is it really already pre-dawn? As you hear the creaking of the footsteps of him as he goes downstairs, as you hear, listening ever so carefully, really attuning yourself so you can really pay attention to what's going on beyond, hearing this small click down through the floor of him allowing the door to shut, of the maid coming in the morning. The sun must be just crusting over the horizon if you heard the click of that door. That's not a concern for today. Lack of sleep, that's not a concern for today. Your character is, he's a man now. He's an adult. And all real men drink bean juice in the morning.
Better get me some bean juice then, eh?
And that will belay any concerns of being tired and so on and so forth. You go downstairs, and I imagine your character gets up and was kind of goes over to his what's it called, wardrobe. Yeah, wardrobe is the proper and would pick out your outfit. What do you go for? Are you going for fancy? Are you going for comfortable? Are you going for sporty?
It's fancy today.
Fancy?
It's we're doing it all. Big day. Gotta be looking the part.
Absolutely.
Making people proud.
Get the hair down. But actually, I as you're getting dressed with this the fancy clothing that you have here, I want you to take this opportunity, Jake, to go ahead and describe Viggo for us. We've not heard a description yet. We have no idea what he looks like. I mean, this is super important because I have no idea what kind of hair he has, and if he's dressing fancy, that means the style. Lay it on us.
So he's 5'6". He's green. He's 100% definitely an orc. So just the typical orc stuff. No, he's a Perrin. He's a rather tall Perrin. He's about 6'1". Actually, I don't know how tall Perrin are.
No, 6'1's fine. Yep, that's 2
very
inches taller than me.
Slender build, and long dark hair that he makes sure to brush every morning. He's got a rather angular face, no facial hair. Although his hands are quite scarred.
Okay.
Yep.
Awesome. And what colors did he choose for his outfit today?
Purple. Purple and
You go purple and gold?
yeah, purple and gold.
Purple and gold. There you go. Nice. So yeah, you are able to kind of get yourself dressed and ready and all that fun stuff. And when you finally make your way downstairs, because it's not a quick thing, putting on the layers and properly getting everything prepared and so on and so forth, it takes a bit of time. You're gonna primp yourself up, maybe a bit of eyeliner, whatever you gotta do. So you bring yourself downstairs, and when you go downstairs, your brother is already appropriately addressed. And again, it's weird because even though he's going to spend the night out, the entire day, and out in the public of Osta with you, he is not wearing any of his military garb, not his officer's uniform, not his officer's relaxed garb, so on and so forth. Nothing of the military at all. He is also fancily dressed. So when you come downstairs and you see that he is dressed to match, not colors wise or style wise, but dressed to match, it's actually like nice. And when you come down the stairs, oh my god, that smell. You didn't know, you had no idea who the maid was that served this house, or who the team of maids were that served the house in the past few years, but you know who must still be here. Let's say, I don't know, let's say the maid's name is Rosin.
Okay.
Yeah. The maid's name is Rosin.
Has Rosin, is she a new hire, or was she?
No, she's a withered old one. She's been around since you were young. And while Rosin is I mean, she's a bit of a peach. She always made the best breakfast. You know what I mean? So when you go walking downstairs, you can just smell that smell. You're like, she's still alive? Wow. You know, it's one of those things where when you go walking in, you can see that while she's there, she still wears her iconic, ugly as hell, but her iconic powdered blue gown that she always wears every day when she comes in. And, you know, after she's done getting the breakfast prepared and cleaning throughout the house or whatever, she switches out of her ugly powdered blue outfit that she always wears into something that's a bit more fanciful, but she doesn't ever want to get the nice stuff dirty. So she always wears the ugly powdered blue outfit. So Rosin is making your favorite breakfast. I don't know what it is, but I can imagine some degree of eggs Benedict, because damn.
Yep. All right.
Are you an eggs Benny kind of guy?
Yeah. 100%.
Man. Homemade hollandaise, none of that pre-packet garbage. Oh. I will lick the plate. Okay. Oh, so good.
I mean, seeing that, he'd probably just that would come out of him. He'd just be like, "Roz, you're still here?
Oi!
we must not be paying you enough. You're still in the same clothes."
She'd look and say, "What? No, I just bought these last week."
I'm joking. It's nice to come down to breakfast. You know, in the dorms down in Sahara, I mean, I wake up to the smell of people smoking that flay leaf, but this is a good change.
She goes, "Oh, them, sinners," and she'll walk over to you and say, "Look at you! You're such a man now. Oh, the spitting image of your father. Look at you." She says, "Turn around for me."
He turns around.
You got your mother's
that
tush,
kind of
though.
flashy spin.
Yep. She says, "You got your mother's tush, though."
He'd just back it up for a second and then be like, yeah.
She comes over and she just like pulls you in and gives you like a bit of a hug. And there's one of those things where, you can always imagine a hug, and certainly after how long it's been, it's a long, it'd be a long hug. But then after the hug goes on for a bit, it gets a little bit tighter. You know what I mean? And you can feel her kind of like nuzzling a little bit more. And you can actually feel her holding back like a sob. And as she kind of holds back a little bit of a sob across the room here, and she pulls back and she has like tears running down in her eyes, and she says, "This is the day of joy. This day we are joyous today. Look at you. You're such a man." she says, and she like pulls you in, hands on the cheeks, and gives you a big, it has to pull you down because you're taller than she is, and gives you a big kiss on the forehead, and says, "No, go sit with your brother. Enjoy your breakfast." And
He
she'll
does.
go and get the food together and go and serve it. As she's serving the food over to you guys, he's sitting there with you and says, "Well, we certainly have a day set for us today. I know that you wanted to spend at least one last time going through the old museum, so I had it prepared for us to go there this morning, but after we're done dealing with the formalities, we can have a bit more fun as the day moves on, yes?"
He smiles. Yeah. I want to see what you have planned. Mr. Officer salutes again.
He says, "Please, not today." And needless to say, the day kind of rolls on with you guys actually going towards the thing that inspired you to want to have an education from when you were a very young age. You always enjoyed it. You have to imagine it's almost like a Smithsonian or Natural History Museum style of thing where you go there and just looking at all of the wonderful architecture and design and stuff like that that's there. So much actually pertaining to like the mole, but more importantly, early Paradel and what it was that they had done, and various other. It's literally a respects to many of the other empires that have fallen to Paradel as is expanded further and further and further, talking about the kings and queens. And what's important to note is while this is, of course, a pro-Paradel ideal, so you almost have that manifest destiny kind of like tone to it, whereas it preordains that you would eventually defeat these other empires and take this land and these peoples into your own to bring about the greatest empire and so on and so forth. While it certainly has that tone to it, it doesn't go without the respect to the other empires that existed prior. Accurate representation of at least as far as you understand, of the names of the people that were there and what was learned, the wonderful aspects of those cultures that were learned from those cultures and folded into the Paradel culture. So whether it be different types of cuisine that are you could take for granted today, where they came from, different types of engineering, strategies of war that were all learned from these different peoples. There's all different things that you kind of go walking through. But truth be told, as much as you love this place, you're distracted. You're not. I mean, you know all this stuff. You know where the mistakes are in this museum because you studied it more deeply, even having had trips to these locations and seeing the ruins yourself that they were taken from. It's like one of those like, it's been 65 years since this exhibit was put here. How have they not corrected that typo on that plaque right there? I mean, hell, can we just make a donation from my family to have this plaque emblazoned or whatever? Anyways, so things like that as you go through. But then the day rolls on with you having significantly more fun with your brother. I mean, going out to lunch, this incredibly, we're talking like fancy place. We're talking like when you guys show up wearing your nice garb, you are passable going there. But again, your family name is well known, so nobody says anything. And certainly there's the entire meal, well, obviously you guys can afford it, it's actually put on the house in celebration for you and so on and so forth. You guys enjoy that. And then it goes to more of the evening where apparently your brother had planned for you a bit of a gala. It's outside of what your character is typically comfortable with, considering the news, but there are so many family friends, so many like aunts and uncles and stuff, people that you haven't seen in a decade, maybe more for some of them, but so many people that you haven't seen. And he plans this for you so you could see them and they can see you. And it's this big grandiose event that's kind of overwhelming. And it gets to the point where it almost feels like, did my brother misread the scenario for how this is all going? But as much as you're getting into the event and a part of it and kind of doing almost like the obligatory celebratory part of this, at the tail end of the events, as things are kind of like, right as it passes, it's what's the word I'm looking for, the crescendo or apex of the event. Your brother actually will come to you and inform you of kind of like the back door out of the event that he had already set for you, so you guys can almost do like an Irish exit or an Irish goodbye, if you're familiar with that. Just ghost. It's like people are like, where's Viggo? Where the hell did Viggo go?
I imagine I was making a speech on stage when I started, fumbling around in my pocket, and then I just all of a sudden disappeared, and everyone went,
111th birthday. That is, I'm sorry, I cannot see the number 111 without thinking 111th birthday. Like, I can just listen to that literally on loop. Just him say 111th on loop for hours. 111th birthday.
Well, for anyone watching this, if anyone wants to, make some 3-hour long video of just that repeating and send it to Scott.
Do a stream of me just listening to that over and over and over again, and just trying to do like a coffee stream sort of a thing, and try to concentrate on what I'm saying while listening to 111th birthday. Oh, you know what the sad part is? I bet Viking would actually do that. They're a douche enough to actually pull that off. Either way.
With any luck, fingers crossed.
Yeah, but Viking's Australian, not New Zealander, so he doesn't have as much obligation to LOTR as like say Steve does. Steve owes
That
his.
is true.
owes
Can't
his
take that
life to
from
them.
him.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, them damn hobbits over there. So either way, continue with the story. So you guys kind of like backdoor your way out. And so when finally you backdoor your way out, and you kind of, there's a carriage for you guys to get into and go riding off. Finally the carriage is, riding away and actually just bringing you back to the family estate. The first couple of minutes of being inside the carriage between the two of you, there's a lot of like laughter about, when Aunt Cecil is like sees that we're gone and you didn't say goodbye. And kind of like that little bit of like laughing.
Did you see cousin Pete? He just had too much to drink and fell over again.
Yeah.
Good old cousin Pete.
Yeah, let's just say Pete's dragging got let loose again. So either way, you there's like that kind of like chuckling for the first like most of the ride back, in the carriage back to your house is that, and then it kind of like tapers off a little bit and gets silent by the end of the ride. When you guys get there, of course, he thanks you guys thank the coachman and climb out, and you go back to the front of the house. As you get out, you climbing out first, you can see there it is again, the front deck or porch, the garden that's there, the house is all right there. It's evening time again. Your brother comes out after you and the carriage walks off. He'll standing side by side with you, kind of like presents. He has a bottle. Looks like it's a champagne of sorts, and certainly has glasses in his hand, and says, "Have a sit."
Of course.
You guys can go over to the garden and have a sit on the front steps of the garden, kind of where everything had taken place beforehand. And he goes over and sits down with you, and after you guys sit down, slowly opening up the bottle, to pour the glasses there, and he says, "Happy birthday, Viggo."
I was happy. Thank you.
You're welcome. I'm sorry. All these years, I mean, I know what I was doing. You're, goddamn it, too smart for your own good, but all these years that we spent apart from one another rather than enjoying each other's company, I know you know why I was doing it, but I want you to know that the sting of that separation, I felt it too. Always wondering whether or not the next exam was going to be too tough for you. The next studies were going to be too difficult, if some bully or some ass at your university was going to cause you troubles. If you'd ever find your way around, well, let's just say navigating that certain social circle. By the way, are you still Never mind. I'm sorry that you have had to do it alone. I'm sorry that you have to do it alone again.
We knew it was coming. I couldn't have asked for a better brother. I don't think there's many that would do what you've done. And I want you to know, and I know that you know, how much I appreciate it, and how much I appreciate you.
Thank you, Viggo.
I am who I am today because of you. I want you to know that.
Thank you. So, with your fancy education and all those damn bits of parchment that you've got sitting in those scrolls I saw you bringing, they didn't touch those scrolls, did they? I don't have to go hunting down no bandits?
I threw it around a little bit. They're all readable. All right.
Do you know what you're doing with them? Do you know what path you're walking?
I want to say yes, but not really. I guess I've been waiting until now, which is probably a stupid thing to do, actually, but...
You have to walk life one step at a time. You only receive orders for the mission before you. It's the way it works. So, it's good to have plans. It's good to have goals, aspirations, but too many things come your way. You end up deviating from that course. So, but you feel prepared.
No. But I'm as prepared as I'm going to be. How do you prepare for something like this? I mean, many do, I suppose. It's a part of life here, but who knows what the future will hold? Who knows?
Yeah. I'm gonna miss our meetings. So, listen, it may take a year, a decade, 5, but you work hard. You do what you must. You earn a name for yourself. I want to be able to sit across from you at a table as equals. I want to be able to enjoy our lunches. Hell, I have no intention of stepping foot in this place after tomorrow. He says, it's patting the step next to him. I want to be able to sell this back to you. What's left of the family wealth, everything that wasn't spent on your education, it's going to be for the upkeep of this. I'm going to keep it as mint as I can. One day I want you to buy it off of me. I got to have many more years here than you did. You should at least have them in the later years.
Well, as long as you'll be there to have the first dinner back.
Only if I'm invited.
Always.
Now, of course, all the contacts that our family has. You know the laws.
I do.
But you made friends along the way?
Few.
Good. There's very fine lines in who you're allowed to call to and who you're not. So make sure that you walk straight and narrow. Don't deviate. Don't allow anybody the opportunity to put an objection to your claiming a name in the future. Do not allow any petty rivalries that have ever existed to allow them to step forward and use any of your actions against you. Walk that path. I don't care about how you do what and where. You're a good and honorable person. You'll do what you need to, but do not utilize anything pertaining to our family. That will harm you. It could harm you by decades.
I won't. Tell me, if we meet out in wherever, can we still have lunch together?
We need to limit contact. If it's not something that's put forward by something outside of our control, it should be avoided. Otherwise, people could perceive it incorrectly. Example, and I'm sure you've read about this yourself. If you happen to be working for some crown on a far-off land, and I'm serving unparalleled military for that crown for whatever task that was set before me, and we happen to be sitting at the same dining event, we're allowed to enjoy each other's company. But we certainly can't go gallivanting off with one another to some dinner somewhere. It could be perceived incorrectly.
I understand. Well, on my part, I'll do as much as I can. This is my life now, and I'll devote myself to it until we can sit like this in this garden again.
He raises up his glass, which he hasn't had yet, and says, "You know, Dad bought this bottle when you were born. He intended on popping it this day for different reasons, but he intended on popping it this day in celebration. He may not be here, and neither is our mother, but that doesn't mean we can't celebrate the man that they helped to raise you to be."
That you helped as well.
Raises glass.
I do the same.
For our mother and our father. You know, kind of like looking up at the stars above. Unfortunately, it's a bit of cloud cover up there because it is springtime. There's patches of starlight, but for the most part, there's a good portion of cloud cover.
He raises his glass to mother and father, and to you.
He nods again and takes a sip. At this point, he just
Never forget the past. We always look to the future. We never forget where we came from.
Well said. Damn education. Maybe one day you could help write some of my speeches that I give to the soldiers that serve beneath me. And
No, I write different papers, brother. Not speeches.
You guys will sit there, kind of more or less. I mean, I imagine there's other words that are said, but more or less silence. Allowing, just kind of like enjoying the night. At some point in time, it does spit outside a little bit of drizzling, but not so much that you're going to want to even climb in underneath the roof of the deck or porch. It's enough that you just kind of sit there and still just enjoy being out and in the garden. Eventually, you hear off in the distance the opening chimes of Lady Aravel's bells ringing. Always on time. Nobody skips a beat at the Church of Lady Aravel. It's a nice church. Has always done a good job of, or at least it was a nice church. Always did a good job of, seeing to the education of the youth and whatnot that are over there. But nonetheless, you hear the early chimes of it. Those chimes, after the first couple seconds, there's that kind of like dreading feeling. You take a deep breath, and he stands up, walks over into the garden a little bit, and again, because it's so burned so well into your memory, he is going to stand over by where you were sitting and where you were playing before. He looks down at that spot, and he looks up to you and says, "When the time comes that you earn your own name, the time comes you make your mark and earn your rights in Paradel. Your family crest, deviating from ours, should have a sunflower on it, don't you think?"
That would be nice, he says as he picks the sunflower up, picks it from the thing. and reaches into his clothes. He actually pulls out a book, places the sunflower inside, and presses it closed and holds it.
You hear the opening chimes come to a close, and then the dings start to ring. You know you only have 12 chimes left before it's all over. Your brother turns towards you, places his hand on your shoulder, and then pulls you in for like a really, really tight hug. And it just goes until the chimes stop. Then he takes a step back, gives you a nod, and says, "Make Paradol proud." And he turns and he walks up the steps, leaving the bottle and the glasses there. Fumbles with his keys for a second to unlock the door, and then goes in and shuts it behind him. Of course, you already know that things were prepared for you. You already know that a hotel room was paid for you. Not by the family, though. By Rosin, ever the sweetheart. Your stuff was transported to the hotel room. You know where to go.
He waits until the last possible moment before getting up slowly and heading out the gate.
That night was a hard one. More difficult even than hearing those words that morning or afternoon when your brother told you that news. You were so young at that time, you didn't even know what life was. But now you do. Now you're not just an adult, but a truly, deeply educated one. And you understand the laws and the reason why the nation has them, the significance of them. And while it hurts, you don't even necessarily disagree with them. Because you can look around at Paradel and see what it's caused. Besides, the bond that's come between you and your brother for everything that has happened because knowing that this law was going to kick in. It hurts. But again, the significance is lost on you. You can look back on that. You can also look back on the day where you decided if you're going to make a mark, you know the best way to do it. One thing that the military has to offer is opportunity. In Clemay, it's forced upon those whose lands are taken from them. In Clemay, it's an opportunity for those who choose to traverse all the way to Paradel from wherever it is that they come from, like a great pilgrimage. In Clemay, it's a opportunity for those who are born within Paradel but don't want to look to their province as a ceiling or as a dome that they are captured within, that want to take in all of the riches that the entire nation has to offer to rise above their station. In Clemay, even for the Manel, to look at whatever station they are, because they were born as, sure, Manel, but I don't know, simple pig farmers, and they didn't see that that was the opportunity for them, or more than that, if they are Metahina and don't have a name, don't have a family, and don't have a place, for them to have that opportunity to leave that mark. Inclemay comes in multiple options is really what it is. As everything else in Paradol, there's three. When you think of Inclemay, you often think of the service to the military or the servitude to some sort of kind of like trade, right? There's actually a third option that not everybody has to deal with. When your land is conquered, Inclemay also is the opportunity of death. So if you don't want to serve Paradel, you can choose to be released from this world. That's obviously not something that your character would even contemplate, right? But if you were to serve in a trade, you are deeply trained in a trade. The problem is, you would be a small fish in a very big pond. Yeah, you're keen. Yeah, you're educated. You received a far deeper education than most. Your family is wealthy. The amount of gold that your family has amassed over the centuries, your family is wealthy. But that doesn't change the fact that, and your brother spent, what is it, a third of your family's wealth on your education from the age of approximately 6 years old till days before you, or at least months before you turned 20. Like, you had private tutors. You went to the best schools. You had received all of the best supplies and everything given to you, knowing that you will never have any of those things again. So he spent as much as he possibly could on ensuring the fact that your character was well educated. But the problem is you would have been a relatively small fish in a very, very deep and vast ocean. But in the military, you are able to kind of take this and bring it further. And so you took that opportunity. Being Manel, you didn't have to serve as a soldier either. You could go in as an officer. Your name has nothing to do with that. That's your birthright of being a Perrin born in Paradel. Those first couple of months were relatively easy for you. As a matter of fact, the degree of structure, rigid structure, is something that you've served from a very young age. So being a tactician recruit, that was nothing. That was absolutely nothing. You blew through that to being lieutenant tactician. But then serving underneath a battle tactician and a battle centurion, that's where it got a little bit harder. Having somebody tell you, not the rigid structure, but having somebody tell you what to do every day, all day, it got a little bit harder. It was actually that spark of independence that led you through the harrowing days out of being lieutenant tactician, that I refuse to have to lick the boots of somebody every moment because I happen to serve directly beneath them as effectively as their servant. And so it was that like flare of independence of wanting to better yourself so you could have those opportunities that made you fight tooth and nail through that time to eventually earn the title of battle tactician, and earning it much quicker than many other will get. Again, not because of your military tactics, but because of your own just sheer brilliance. It was in this time of becoming a battle tactician and all of this time of being here that you had to find a place where you're going to lay your claim, find a place where you wanted to serve. It was during this time that you joined the military that you saw an opportunity. Not only did the Duinair win a massive legal case, earn the rights by their Turumbar, mind you, in conjunction, in agreement with the other Turumbar, to have claim over all rivers that pass through Dween, which is absolutely crazy, and somehow get away with the bullshit of being known as the River King. I mean, that's somebody with some stones of steel that somehow are able to not have them melted beneath the pressure and the heat of the churning war of Paradel and the burning desire and constant fight to raise themselves of all those around them. You saw an opportunity underneath Dween. This is somebody who's going places, somebody who's looking for those that will serve well beneath them, and where you can see a name being like a stake a name for yourself. So you chose to go and bring your servitude in as a battle tactician shortly after gaining that rank to the River King. And after laying down your offer, were accepted into that province as a battle tactician. And so it's here where you'll be given your opportunity, where you will learn brotherhood to serve with a small group around you. Jake, any other final words you want to give before we bring this session 0 to a close, and we can kind of shore things up?
No, that was a phenomenal session, Scott. There was no rolling apart from those D100s and stuff, all RP. It was great, and you did a really good job.
Yeah, we had to make sure that Viking's timer broke. We know it doesn't go up that high. So.
Well, different character. Let's see how we do.
Yeah, I won't lie. I'm excited. I don't know about you. Like, I hate to sound like a bit of a little bitch there, but there was once, and definitely more the second time, I choked up a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, it hit it was intense, and
yeah,
it was. I liked it. It was good. It showed a different side.
It's good. Either way. So oh, actually, do you want to, or do you want to keep this close to your chest for now? Do you want to say what your family name was for Viggo and oh crap, what's your brother's name? It's not Viking.
Victor.
Victor, thank you.
Yeah.
It would have been funny if you named him Viking, though. Be like my brother Viking. Either way, what is your family name?
Vinsana.
Vinsana. Okay, so you did want to share it. So Viggo Vinsana, not Mortensen. Dude, have you ever seen A History of Violence? Did you ever see the movie A History of Violence?
I did.
Oh my
yeah.
god. Oh
Yeah.
my god. Oh
Stop.
my god. It's
That
so
was-
good.
yeah.
It's
Yeah.
so good. Like, I'm sorry, if you go LOTR, Hidalgo, A History of Violence, Viggo Mortensen for a while there was my, like, him and Johnny Depp for a while, they were my favorite actors. Like they were neck and neck for my favorite actors. Johnny
Yeah,
Depp then dropped
yeah.
off and just does trash films. But anyways.
Well, he's got all those legal bills to pay now, so what are you gonna do?
Yeah.
Gonna make that bread.
Yeah. Either way. So you any other closing bits that you want to say?
No, I'm excited for this campaign. Excited to see where it goes. What I envision for my character will no doubt change with the evolving of the world and things we experience. So I'm looking forward to it.
Awesome. Well, everybody, thank you so much. This is the last of the session zeros. As I've said beforehand, don't go anywhere. We'll be back in just a little bit after this. As you know, we pre-recorded this for now, but we're going to kind of like go back live with the PCs and whatnot in a little bit. So make sure that you don't go anywhere. And thank you, everybody. I hope you all appreciate it.